What's up everyone, this is Ryan here, and in this lesson we're going to be building a tab layout and ViewPager combination, which is a pattern that you'll see quite a bit in Android material design apps. So without further ado, let's just jump into the demo here. So as you can see, this is the app that we'll be building. You can select the tabs to change the page, but you can also swipe with the finger as I'm doing here. And also, when someone actually clicks on or presses on the text view inside of the ViewPager, we have a little toast message to pop up when that happens. And that's basically just to represent how we can sort of have a callback from the fragment within the ViewPager and sort of supply that to the activity. So yeah, that's it for the demo. Let's hop into the code. Okay, welcome back. So code-wise, we'll be continuing on from the previous lesson, which was the basic tab view. What we'll do is we'll just work on copies of those classes and layout files just because there's some stuff that we want to keep, but we don't necessarily want to ruin all of our work from our previous lessons. So what we'll do is head up to the main package, right click, hit copy, and then paste. And we're going to call this first thing here ViewPager activity. And then go ahead to res layout. And we'll just make a copy of the layout file as well. And of course that will be activity ViewPager. Perfect. So the first thing we'll do is we can get our, let me back up a minute. So since we've just created a new activity, it isn't actually in the manifest. So go ahead and open up Android manifest.xml. And we'll just make a copy of this activity here. This is necessary, otherwise the activity wouldn't be registered with the manifest and we would have errors if we tried to run it. So go ahead and fix the name there. That's going to be ViewPager activity. And we're actually going to delete the intent filter from our activity tag for the basic tab activity. And all that does is it basically tells the manifest that we want to load our ViewPager activity first. That's the initial activity to load, not the other one. The reason why we're doing that is there's no way to navigate between activities in the app itself, so this just ensures that we're now working with our new ViewPager activity. So yep, that should be it there. Okay, so go ahead and open up activity ViewPager. And we're going to be doing a couple things here. Go ahead and get rid of that text view. We won't be needing that anymore. And what we'll do is we're actually going to wrap this tab layout within a ViewPager object. So we'll just say android.support.v4.viewPager. And just make sure that that is actually wrapping the tab layout. And of course we'll need to put some basic settings on there. So we'll say for ID, we can just say VPG main let's try that again. VPG main content. I'm looking at something else while I'm typing, so and doing a horrible job of it. We'll also set the layout height and the width. So the width can be match parent, and the height can also be match parent. That's good enough there. Yep, so the only other thing we need to specify is in the tab layout, type Android layout gravity, and we're going to set that to top. So what does this layout gravity tag do? Basically what it does is it tells us that we want this tab layout to be in the top of its parent, which is the ViewPager. If, for example, we set that to bottom, then our tabs would actually show up on the bottom of the ViewPager, which is not the look we're going for, but just in case you were curious about what that is what it is. Alright, so before we get into our activity stuff, we need to create a new fragment and its layout. So head over to the main package, right click, go to new, and we're just going to build this kind of on the fly. And what do we call this? This is ViewPager item fragment. And this is going to represent each item in our ViewPager. And not unfortunately, but it's just, this isn't a tutorial on fragments, so I'm going to go through this part kind of quickly. I do have videos which go into more depth on fragments. For example, the first two videos of my my Android SQLite tutorial go into quite a bit of detail. For this, we're not going to be explaining a whole lot, but I'll just go over it really quickly. So make sure you select the support fragment, otherwise that'll cause issues. Um, so what's going on here? So it's just a very standard fragment implementation. We've got a string tag or a string key called page title. What we'll be doing is when we instantiate our fragment, we pass in a page title, and then that gets set as the fragment's arguments. Once the fragment gets created, we make our page title string variable here equal to this page title argument that we passed in. And then all we're doing is, well, let me get into that part in a minute. Just before we get into the rest of this stuff, we're going to create our layout because that'll get rid of some of the errors here. So go to right-click on Layout, New Layout Resource File, and this one will be called Fragment ViewPager Item. And we'll just get this out of the way real quick. Again, nothing fancy at all. It's just a frame layout with a text view within it, and the text view fits the whole screen, and the gravity is center. So absolutely nothing special going on there. Let's head back over to the fragment. All right, so that's got rid of the those errors there. So basically all we're doing is we're setting that text view to our page title, which we passed in, and we're also assigning an on-click listener to that text view. And this is only because I want to show you how you can basically communicate from this fragment that is within the ViewPager back to the activity. Now, how we do that is by an interface. Again, I'm not going to go on a huge amount of detail, but we create our interface down here called Fragment Pager Item Callback with this one method that just passes a message. And each time that text view is clicked, it fires our callback interface. Two important things to note. We're assigning our listener inside of onAttach, and anytime onDetach is called, we set that listener to null. That is quite important because since ViewPagers, we're basically going to be working with 4 different fragments, and oftentimes in ViewPagers you'll be working with even more than 4 fragments. It's important that you manage your listeners really carefully so that you're not creating, hundreds of these callbacks and listeners and just kind of letting them take up a ton of memory. So that's basically all we need to worry about with ViewPager Fragment. Hopefully that's clear. If there's any confusion, please let me know in the comment section. And okay, what are we doing next? So we've got that. So the only thing we need to do is fix our ViewPager activity here. So there's going to be a couple things going on. For starters, we're going to get rid of this text view. Obviously, we deleted it, and we'll have a ViewPager, just called Pager. Let's just make sure that's the support pager. Yep, support. There we are. Always good to double check on that. And we're also going to have just a static string array. So we'll say a private static final string. Oops. And we'll call that page titles. So this is going to kind of simulate having multiple titles. The reason why it's static final is obviously it's just a static array. We don't want to be, it's not going to be changing at all. Movies, music, oops. Sorry, this will take me a moment. We'll just have 4 items in there. So we've got movies, music, podcasts, and other, just some random stuff I thought of. That's all we need to do there. And let's see, let's head into the onCreate. So we're still doing that elevation set thing, so we don't need to change that. What we can do is we'll get an instance of our pager. So that's going to be ViewPager. And then that's going to be, what do I call it, VPG, main content. Perfect. What next? So what we're going to do is, I'm starting to get a little bit pissed off because this onCreate method is getting bigger and bigger. So we're actually just going to create a separate method called setUpPager and tabs. And this is purely for aesthetic concerns. I just don't like the onCreate method in my applications or activities or anything to get excessively large and be doing a huge number of things. We're just going to create this separate method down here. So what we'll do is we're going to throw this tab. We can actually get rid of this. We won't be creating tabs using that method, so just delete that. We still want to be styling our tabs and setting up the listener. Let's see here. So we'll just select this stuff here and put it in our setup pager and tabs. Let's see. All right, so what we need to do next is we need to set up an adapter for our ViewPager. And so we'll just go ahead down here and do that. I apologize for jumping around here a bit, but hopefully it's somewhat reasonable. So I'll be just copy and pasting in this adapter just as a nested class. Yes, we want the support fragment. And we'll just kind of talk you through it. Make sure all that stuff that you import is the support version. So what we have here is an implementation of the Fragment pager adapter. So when you're creating a ViewPager with fragments, you basically have two options. You can use this Fragment pager adapter or Fragment state pager adapter. What are the differences? Basically, the Fragment pager adapter is better if you have like a small or a static number of pages like we do here. It's a little bit easier on memory because I believe it actually caches the fragments or keeps them in memory once they're visited. And as you can imagine, if we had a huge number of fragments, then you wouldn't really want to do that because you'd be caching everything in memory and causing issues. So if you have like a large and dynamic number of pages, use the Fragment state pager instead. In this case, of course, we're going to use the Fragment pager adapter. Moving on, we've got a couple important methods that we need to go over. So we have this just a constructor which supplies a fragment manager to the supercall. You will need that. The first thing we have here is the getItem method within the custom adapter. So basically what this does is for each item that we require, or sorry, let me do the get count first, that'll help. This get count method tells our adapter how many pages we're going to have. In this case, all we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, I've got 4 strings in my page titles string array up here. That means I want to create 4 pages. So that's going to work out to 4, and that's what get count does. And then in getItem, it's going to look at each one of those items based on position, and then it's going to create a fragment for that specific for each item in the ViewPager. To get each fragment, we just do our getInstance method. That's just very typical fragment stuff going on there. And the only other thing we need to look at here is this getPageTitle method, which doesn't actually have to be overridden like getItem and getCount, but we do want to do this. What this does is, as we'll see, it's actually how we'll set up our tabs to have the appropriate text, the appropriate titles for each tab. So more on that in a minute, but that's basically how our custom adapter works. So we've got it in here as a static class, and then what we'll do, let me just find my place here. Okay, so what we'll do is we've got this stuff going on, that's fine. In the setup pager and tabs method, we're going to create an instance of that adapter. Of course, it's a static class. Custom adapter equals new custom adapter. And we will say get support fragment manager. Pass that in. That is, of course, just the what we're passing in here, so nothing too special. And then we say pager, which is, of course, our ViewPager object here, and we assigned it here. Sorry, I'm just OCDing out for a minute. Pager.setAdapter, and then we just pass in that adapter. So we're just about finished. Only a couple things. We need to, let's see, okay, I'm setting up my listener, good. There's one last setting we need to call on our page adapter, or sorry, our tab layout. On the tab layout, we're going to call tabachnach.setUpWithViewPager. and this is a special method that we need to use, which basically it's like an automated way of implementing your ViewPager with the tab layout. So it's kind of just like a convenience method, I'd call it. So we call that on the tab layout, and then we pass our pager in. I think that's just about everything. Let's see, we got the pager, blah, blah, blah. Of course, we need to... I'm actually just going to move that down here. I don't think that's consequential, but just in case. We need to, of course, call that method, set up pager adapter and tabs. That's that. And the only other thing we need to do is head down to on tab selected. So this is when, or sorry, there's two things we need to do. First off, head down to on tab selected, delete that, and all we will say is, let's see here. When the user clicks on a particular tab in our tab layout, obviously we want to change to the appropriate page in the ViewPager. So we do that by calling pager.setCurrentItem, and we can say tab.getPosition. So obviously if I'm clicking on the second tab, which is music, I want it to load the music, the second item in the ViewPager, which is the music fragment. Hopefully fairly self-explanatory. There's also a little, there's something you can set here. You can pass true in as the second parameter, and what that does is that tells, there's a version of this method which has smooth scroll. Maybe I can just, yeah. If you look here, it says int item boolean smooth scroll. You can, it's kind of up to you. It probably looks better to set that to true, but there is an implementation. There is a, what's the word I'm looking for? A version of this method that you can just do pass in the tab position. Wow, I'm not sure why that was so difficult to say. Okay, one more thing, I swear. So the last thing we need to do is set up our callback from our fragment. So we'll say, what's our fragment called? ViewPager item fragment dot fragment pager item callback. And of course it's going to scream at us because we need to implement that. So, oops. Oh, come on, work with me. There we go. Sometimes it takes a minute before Alt-Enter will work, which irritates me. Anyways, so we've implemented, this is just the interface from our fragment. That's all that this is. So, ViewPager activity. So what we do is, this is purely to demonstrate how we can get data out of a specific item in the ViewPager. So what happens is when that gets called, all we're going to do is just say toast.makeText. For context, this, and we'll say message plus exclamation mark, that exclamation mark. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's optional. Yeah, it's optional. You don't have to put it in there. And then we'll say length short because we don't want that to take up the screen forever. So, unless I've made a mistake, which we'll figure out in a moment, that is everything we need to do here. So that's it for this tutorial. I may eventually do a tutorial for like a totally dynamic ViewPager adapter. It's not, as far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned, it's not really different enough to warrant a new video yet, but if it's something that you guys are really confused about, let me know in the comments section, and I can eventually do that. And that would, of course, be with the Fragment State Pager adapter. So that's all for this one. If you like the video, do me a favor and hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later. Alright, well, we only have one correction today. I specifically told myself to remember to do this, and I still forgot to do this. So in ViewPager activity, in the set content view, obviously we need to pass in the activity ViewPager, not the activity basic tab. So that's it. I'm a dumbass. Thanks for watching.